Okay, everyone, welcome to Treehouse number 29. So we've got Tim and Jill here ready to present on the multilingual websites in Treehouse. So yeah, I'm really keen to see this one. I haven't done a full multilingual site before, but I've done like a partial one with just like it's a secure zone login, and yeah, that brought up quite a few challenges. So yeah, I'm looking forward to some tips that you've got for me, Tim. So over to you.
Yeah.
The presentation ist ein Deutsch-Präsentation.
Okay.
No, it'll be in French. Ça va en français.
Gilles is doing in French. I'm doing in German.
Presentation.
Yeah, let's dive right into it. Multilingual size is a bit of a challenge because it needs things to be done at different places in the system, and there's still some things which I'm not sure if that's the right way to do it or if there's an easier way to do it. And there's also something I can't show yet because I haven't done it yet, and that's system pages. Like, how do you deal with system pages, because they are like available in only one version in the system. There's some ideas I have. Maybe we can talk about that and develop approach together, or do a little bit of workshop here. But I share my screen quickly. Let's see, where are we? Which browser? Let's use this one. So that's the page we are talking about today, and it's in English and French. So this right now is obviously the English version, and I have a very classic option here, like to switch to French, and I can do this also on any subpage. Now I have a French page here, and I can change back to the English version of that page. That's already a bit more than most of the multilingual pages I know is doing, because a lot of multilingual pages who offer several languages, they just link back to the home page. Like when you're somewhere in the subpage and you want the different language, then that language just links you to the homepage of that language. So we did it on this side in a way that you can really, because that I found this always annoying, that you're on an English page, you want that page to be in German, French, or whatever, and then you have to navigate back to that. You have to go back home and then navigate back to that. So we solved this here with an extra model I'm going to show. But first things first, like the easy things. What we did, I start with pages here. The easiest way to do multilingual pages is just doing two folders. That's the way we did it. So the English page has a slug starting with /en/ and then name of the site, and the French page has a slug starting with /fr/ and then name of the site, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty easy. And then what you would do is basically link the domain. In this case, there's no French domain. So there's no, like, I know that some projects
bilingual, the domain reads in French and English in the same way in this case. Yeah.
So the domain is linked to I have the domains open here. I think somewhere where domains, no, they're not open. Domains is just the original domain is linked to the English page. So you will always end up on the English page, and then you would have to change to French. I'm thinking of a cookie solution that might, once you change to French, that you will start with the French homepage when you enter the domain, but that's not done yet. So a second thing, though, that's easy. The second thing would be now, okay, we have a blog on that site. How do we do that blog multilingual? And what I did is, you could use the original blog module, but I kind of prefer to do my own blog module also for custom properties and things like this. So I created a custom module for the blog, and that custom module is an advanced custom module. So we basically imitate or replicate the functionality of the original pages module, which has like folders and pages, with an advanced custom module, which has like blog folders and blog pages. And in this case, the same like with the pages, I have an English subdirectory and a French subdirectory. And the only thing which is a bit kind of not so super clean is when I go into the English sub page, I would have to pick again the folder with the blog name. And that's just purely for the URL, because I would always want to start with the language in the URL slug, like EN or FR. And hence, after that would be the name of the blog and then the blog title. So that's the reason why there is 2 levels of a blog folder. That might not be the ideal solution. And maybe someone tells me, okay, that's not so important when the language part is in the slug. So, but I wanted to have it clean and kind of like the same all over the page. So that's why I did that. Okay, that's actually also quite straightforward, like with the blog solution. Then we have content which doesn't have a detail page, like list modules, like modules just listing out stuff on a page. And I have an example here. There is a page for expertise. So there's a little accordion here, and these are all basically custom module items, but they don't have a URL. They're just listed here in the accordion. And that approach is different, but also not so complicated. We just created a custom module with English and French custom properties. So in this case, for instance, there's text and text FR. The reason why this is just text is that this module started with only one language, and then I came in and we created a multilingual version. So rather than renaming property fields, I just added text FR and content FR for the French content. And the original content field, of course, stays with the English version. So then this way you can just either use different list layouts to list out either the French or the English content of this module, or you could, what I did in this case, I was using a collection for this module. And in this case, you can see I can basically use either the French properties or the English properties, depending where you put this code in. In this case, it's for the French page.
One thing that we liked with you, Tim, doing the adding the language in the slug, the FR, it just made it a little bit easier to do some SEO specifically for the Quebec market. So, because then they search in French, and so we were able to kind of have a French slug and an English slug, and do 2 different SEO for 2 different markets. So we did it that way as well. It kind of helped me in that sense, because I could use French words that people are actually typing in to Google.
So next thing would be contact form, or like forms in general, web forms. So how did we do it with forms? You could basically do a form for English and a form for French. That's a bit harder to maintain, because whenever you need to change something, you have to change it in 2 forms. You have to create 2 workflows and all of that. So we decided to stay with 1 form. And I have an example here. like a standard contact form. And we introduced a form property called language. I explain in a minute why this is, what's that for. But this works with a if statement. The form layout actually works with an if statement looking for the URL path. And it uses contains, and it's just checking if there is /fr/ in the slug or if there is /en/ in the slug, because that's always unique. That would like show or like be a very clear indicator if that form is on a English version of a page or on a French version of a page. And with that if statement, I have basically the same form code twice. In the first case, it's just like placeholders is in French and or like labels would be in French, but it's the same form. It uses the same form properties. And here I just use an else statement. You could do this with as many languages as you would want to. Just do then else if and check for another language. But the second part, the else part, would be then the English part. And next thing would be like autoresponder. How do I make sure that a person who is filling in the French form is getting a French autoresponder email and vice versa? And that's what this field is for, this language field, because the custom form property language, I put it in here as a hidden input field and populated it with French here and English down there, depending on where the form was used. And all I have to do then in my autoresponder email is just to put an if statement and check for that form submission data field language. And if it's French, I give a French text. And if it's English, I give an English text. Doesn't work in the subject line though. That's why I put this in here, like French and English together. I can't quite remember why it didn't work. I think it was too long or something, because I think in general Liquid works in the subject field. Adam, you might know a bit more about that, but something else wasn't quite working there. So yeah, that's the bit with forms. I could also do the same with the workflow notification. So basically, if you like would want to give a French workflow email to the team when it's a French form input and an English one, if it's an English form input, you can also just design the workflow email just the same way. That's basically it when it comes to general design of the pages. In this case, what did we do? We have a English template for the homepage and a French template for the French homepage. I have a second example on my own agency page, which is also in 2 languages, where I use a slightly different method, and that's the last thing I'm going to show. Just have to switch back to another browser, just a sec. Here we go. So that's my agency page. I forgot the one thing I wanted to show. Sorry, guys. I almost forgot. I go back to the first project. That's the story with those directly linked pages, like how to go from an English subpage to a French subpage with the same content but different language. I'm just using a custom module for that and some Liquid logic. Like in this, I didn't I couldn't find any other way to do that because the English slugs and the French slugs, because of SEO, have to be different. There's no similarities that I could just say, okay, I exchange the language folder part of the slug and then I have the French version like for that slug. That's not working, as you can see here, because that module is basically just holding the link information or the slug information for each page. Like you can see here in the columns. And because the slugs are different, or the page names, URLs are different, there's no automatic, I couldn't find an automatic version how to do that. And in the header where these links are shown on the front end, you would just call that module and filter it for the URL you're using and pull out the data for the URL you want to go to. That's basically, I don't want to go too much into details with that, but if anybody wants to see the code for that, no problem, just a quick message. I can easily show that. Okay, last thing I wanted to show quickly was instead of using different content templates for your different versions, language versions, you can also use different snippets. So I have my own page here, like I have a header code here, and I have my template for my home page, my front page here. And you can see there is a typical like division into a top bar, a header bar, or a header. And what I was using here is like a custom parameter in the component call for the snippet. So I basically transport the information, which version of that header I would like to have via that custom parameter in the component call. That's just another idea, or like how you could implement different languages in your code. You know, you could also just use different snippets, no problem. Just use a snippet for the English top bar and the whatever French top bar. I did that here with the slider code. The slider snippet has a dedicated English version, but I tried that with the parameter and I kind of found it a bit nicer. So multiple solutions for the same problem, basically. Okay, guys, that's it for me. Anything you want to add, Jill?
No, that was really that was great, Tim. Yeah, the only thing was that SEO piece for us. That was what was really important for us at the time, and being able to, have the different slugs, that was important to us. And yeah, just trying to figure out to keep it clean and easy for the client to manage in the back end, because this particular client wants to be able to manage their site themselves, especially their blogs and things like that. So it we wanted to make it as easy as possible and a great user experience for them to be able to administer their site. So
if you had to scale it to more languages, would you change your strategy?
No, my own agency page, I already prepared it for 3 languages, and it's the same thing. I couldn't think of a better method. I hope maybe someone knows a better method. But actually, if you use more languages, you would just have to know where to add if statements, or where you would have to add a subfolder, or where you would have to add another custom property in. Depends on the structure of your content, how complicated your content is arranged around your site. That can be quite something and messy, I have to admit. You really have to keep an overview. And you will end up testing the page. You will end up in parts where you think, okay, I missed that one. There's still some, yeah. Gilles knows that because we had it with his project that you would end, oh, this part is still in French or this part is still in English. Yet you miss stuff. You really have to test properly. But as I'm saying, there might be a better way.
Which is why we present. This is why we share this stuff, just in case other people have thought of different approaches, or the cookies is definitely Aaron mentioned, and it's true. It's a nice touch because especially it's quite popular here too. It's because it makes it a great user experience for the user returning to the site, not having to re-pick their language and stuff like that. So that's definitely a great touch as well.
And that's also so far my only idea how to solve the problem with system pages. I mean, with that page, it's only the 404 page, which we would have to solve. But if you do an e-commerce site, you have so many system pages you would have to deal with, and you would not be able to solve the problem with a slug, but you should be able to solve the problem with the language on the site. And as you don't have a slug to look if you are in the English or French or whatever version of the site, you would have to source your information about the language the user is actually using it in that moment. You have to source that information from somewhere else, and that can only be cookies or HTML storage if you would go that way. Meaning that whenever you switch languages, like in that moment, the cookie is also set to that language. Hence, and once you do that, Aaron is right. We could as well just use the cookie for like all kind of, we could use it in general for all the pages, not only, but I just found the method with the slug to look up the slug a bit more robust, because that's always there. The slug will never change. So, and it's a very clear indicator what language the user expects. So that's why I'm using the slug for the normal pages. Yeah, guys, any questions? I hope it wasn't too overwhelming. Maybe we should make a channel on the forum to talk a bit. I think I even started a channel about like a thread on the forum about multi-language pages. I might go back there and revive it a bit, because I'm really curious to hear how you guys would approach that.
We haven't had too many requests for multiple languages, but I do have a new website, but they want to support like 30 languages, and if you're going to support 30 languages, then you might as well go Google Translate.
Google Translate, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, understanding that the Google Translate version is not going to be great,
And it affects what I've noticed is the Google Translate too, it affects your sometimes the responsiveness of the site to mobile. So that's the only thing I didn't like about the Google.
And you wouldn't have the SEO advantage, because you don't have separate endpoints for different languages. So, but I get it, 13 languages, that even like the translation work. I mean, we were using AI translation quite heavily for this. So we're not using a translator, right, Jill? I mean, that was actually...
No, that's right. I was translating most of it and then using we were using the online translator, DeepL. Yeah, we were using DeepL and then just getting it translated, which is what a lot of professional translators use as a first pass for a lot of stuff. Now, and I think it becomes more imperative, I think, like, if you need to do SEO, if you have a separate market, it's one thing to offer like languages to people because it's the nice thing to do and people want to have it in their own language. And, I think Google works well for that. but in this case, they were targeting a specific francophone market. Quebec tends to think of themselves quite distinct. They even have they have civil law instead of the rest of Canada's common law. Like, like just different things like that. They're totally different and distinct in that way. So by doing it this way, we were able to really target that market, that Quebec market.
How do you guys like this method of directly linking pages rather than linking back to the homepage for languages? It's a bit more maintenance work because obviously, like when you enter a new blog article in 2 languages, you would have to enter a third item in that module to link those 2 versions of the article. Is it worth it? I mean, or is it more like too much maintenance work? I noticed, Gilles, that your client is not like updating that module. I don't know if
they haven't done a lot of activity. You're right. They haven't, I think they're waiting. I've got a proposal in for them. I think they want me to take that over. They want me to do their marketing for them. So I've got a proposal sitting with them and waiting to hear back. Yeah, because you're right. There hasn't been much activity from their part. So.
Yeah, Tim and Jill, that was going to be my question about what's the client's role in this, because if they're going to take on updating that content, there's a lot of steps and a lot of things to think about and connect. I could see that falling apart very quickly. So yeah, how are you going to challenge that? Work through that challenge, I guess.
That's actually a question for Gilles, right?
Yeah, well, it requires a lot of training. Like I put a lot of training hours in my proposals. So especially for those clients that really are adamant that they want to try to do it themselves. And, on Tim's side, he's been really good to make the back end look fairly intuitive for them. Like he changes some of the labels and the icons, and just to make it a little bit more intuitive for the user. But yeah, it does require quite a bit of training to be added to my proposals. And often what ends up happening is they realize, especially when little tweaks and little things that they're not privy to, then they call me. So then that's billable hours at that point, and then I do some fixing. And
yeah, I think to have a site with multiple languages, it's just like, that's special, that this will use resources like either your own in terms of time or financial in terms of like hiring us or the developer to do it. Is like not so difficult to understand for the client and to communicate to the client.
Yeah, although like you said, I think on the very face of it, it seems like an easy thing. You think, well, we're just replacing that content with a different language, but then you've got to work your way up. Well, the slug's not changing, the SEO is going to be the same. And once you start going up, you realize you have to just really create a new page or a new template, new forms. So you're duplicating everything. And I think really at the end of the day, if you want to do it properly, that's what you have to do. There's no real shortcuts to just replace certain parts.
Yeah.
In most cases.
It's like what I was like kind of struggling with, or like had to use time on, is to find the way I actually want to go, because there are multiple ways you can do that, and to find out what's actually like this thing. Do I do separate templates for separate languages, or do I just exchange or make parts of those templates conditional, and I'm using parameters to control that? And that all depends on your personal style of coding and how you separate the code in your site, because we have all these tools in Treehouse. We have snippets, we have includes, we have templates, we can use layouts, we can use it in different ways, we can use collection variables and all of that. So there's really a lot of things you can do differently here. So I couldn't say what's most effective.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you've really got to think back to the client's experience. How can they do it the easiest way that's going to connect it all and make it still work? But I think from a lot of the things I saw you doing was very similar to the approach I took in the site that I had to do this on. And yet the only thing I'd say with the system pages, as you said, you've got to detect the language somehow. So cookies is one way, but I think in most cases when you move to a system page, you're coming from a page. So there should be a way to take that with you, whether it's in a URL parameter or with the request object in Liquid has the referring page. That could be a way to see where you came from. So I would probably look at that approach. Because
that sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. One thing I wanted to say is, like, maybe it's important to know that you would have to have a pro account in Treehouse to do multilingual sites. Theoretically, you can, like, for the part when you want to use a custom module and you want to have different folder structures in this custom module, like I did with it, because you need the advanced custom module approach to do that properly. Theoretically, you can also use the simplified tree view in a custom module in the backend to drag and drop items and create subfolders. I did that before until I must have messed something up internally in the database. I had to contact support and I got a message back that simplified tree view is actually not supported with, or like, it's not meant to be used. That's how they said it. It's not meant to be used with custom modules when they're not advanced. Because I had the problem in this particular case that in the 3 different available views of a custom module, some items would show up and other items would not show up. And sometimes no items would show up. Also on the front page, by the way, they would disappear from the front page. So that was kind of messing up the database. So my recommendation is use a pro plan and do an advanced custom module and create one module for the folder and one module for the actual item page, whatever.
Any other questions for Tim, or is anyone needing to approach a multilingual site in the future, or have you done one before or anything similar? It's one of those unique cases, isn't it? That yeah, when you've got to tackle it, it's quite tricky. Are there other platforms that actually have it like that built in as a feature to do multilingual? Does anyone know, like Shopify or anything?
Site-like Shopify, maybe, I don't know.
Interesting to see how they do it, but
I'll advertise with it.
It would just create new items in the database, I guess. So Aaron's noted in the comments that there is an app for Shopify that does it.
Ah, yeah. Aaron just wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's I guess, could Zapier come in handy to link things together? Like you're talking about trying to get the pages where you had to redirect to the French version of the page. Maybe there's something with Zapier you could connect them that way, like do it more automated, but then you'd have to have both created. Yeah, that's a tricky one.
The point when I was thinking about automation in that case is that you will always have, if you want to do it properly for SEO, you will always have the slug in a different language. And you would have to put this somewhere to connect that information, that this slug, this French slug belongs to this English slug. And the only way you could automate that is with artificial intelligence, because they would, the AI would have to know that belongs, that's French for that, that's French for this English site name or site slug, and that's not available. You know, that at that point I thought, okay, the only way is I have to put it in a table, and use that. So, or you just really don't do proper SEO URL slugs and just use the same slug and in a different folder. Then it's easy to automate. Then you probably will have a mess with SEO because the URL slug at the end of the day is important, and when you have a product in that slug, it would show up, I don't know, for English and French. That's like the details of the whole thing. Ideally, the English sites would show up when you use Google in English language, and the French sites would show up when you use it in the French language. I don't know. Or when you look for the French site with a French search term in an English Google site, things like this. Catherine is not here today.
Actually, I've experienced that. Some sites that use Google for the translation, when my Google is in French, which is most of the time, the site will show up in French first. If they're using Google, I guess Google's translates, and then and then if my Google's set to English, then English will show up first. So
yeah, that's a big part of it, isn't it? The SEO side of things. I think that's what complicates it most, I think, in my head. That's really got to, yeah.
Especially if you have a specific market, like, you know, like if you were, if you have a market that's totally different. Like I'm trying to think in the States, maybe Miami, maybe more Spanish. You know, there might be a Spanish market there enough to have a separate SEO, but there might be other countries that I'm not thinking about, but
I think in a global economy, it's always good to think about using multiple languages depending on where your marketplace is.
Mm-hmm.
And in the US, I would expect, like in Canada, it's like clear because you have French and English parts. In the United States, there's also like a big customership for Spanish, you know, and that's important for some businesses to cover that.
So Aaron has written in the comments about using the way that products are assigned to multiple catalogs as a way of assigning URLs. I think that would be a good way for multilingual sites.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but have this application available in custom modules. So actually, I think, Aaron, that is available in custom modules. You can have, when you have an advanced custom module as a nested one, you can have it in multiple parents. And that's an option you can have, but I'm wondering if that would work. I guess I guess you really want it the other way around, don't you? You want a folder with two different pages. I'm not sure. It's tricky.
Yeah, what Aaron is writing sounds great. I was thinking of catalogs because I haven't done an e-commerce site in like multilingual e-commerce site yet. Yeah, especially with e-commerce, because the product name, usually your e-commerce site, the slug, the name of the product is in a slug, and that wouldn't change no matter what. Maybe it would, depends on the products, but if you have like a Nike shop or something like this, it would be the same. So, and then it's really easier to maintain if you only have one product for all languages and use multiple catalogs. And then I'm not quite sure if I understand what Aaron means with the canonical problem, but yeah, you would have to figure that out so you don't get penalized for duplicate content.
Oh, yeah.
I guess with e-commerce, if you're targeting different languages, you may even have different pricing because there could be you could be doing multi-currency.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Do we have multi-currency support on Triple yet?
I think if
I'm
you
not
have,
even sure.
yeah, you can, yeah, with
Yeah.
different domains. So you'd have to create subdomains.
Yeah.
So each domain that you have in the system can have its own gateway and pricing.
I remember that in the forum when I was writing about multilingual sites, someone was replying, saying that you can also just use different subdomains in terms of like de.domain.com and en.domain.com. That didn't work for me because I would have for sites which are generally like the same, like the home site or a site whose name or the name where the name is the same in all languages, I would have the problem that I couldn't use the same slug. I need that subdirectory. I always need that different subdirectories to really have different slugs, to not have the problem with that slug has already been used. And that's a problem I came across quite often when I was using more than several modules, custom modules, which all produces URL endpoints. And I wanted to use the subdomains, the subfolders for the language as landing page for the different languages. That wouldn't work, of course, because I would have a module A, which has like /en/ for English, and a module B, which also has /en/ English as a subfolder, basically the same slug, the same URL. And that obviously doesn't work. That's just one thing I came across trying out different methods.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the subdomain method would probably solve one side of things, particularly the system pages, because you would know what's.
Yeah, because they're there. There's only one slug for them. Yeah.
Yeah, but then the subfolder would solve another bunch. So I guess ideally you would do them both, but then that's more work. So.
Yeah, but that, to me personally, that looked like, I don't know, that didn't just look good.
Yeah.
Just having like de.domain.com/de/ that's just too much, you know, unnecessary information in the slug.
Yeah. But how conscious are general users of the slug anyway? I mean, I know Chrome was going to, I think Safari does it where they don't even show the full slug anymore. They only show the domain. So
yeah, you're right. I'm not even sure if that's so important.
Yeah, to us
It's just me, you know, like at the end of the day, I've never looked at the slug. That doesn't matter to me. And you spend like hours in developing like clean slugs and everything. Like, I never saw that.
Yeah.
I don't know. As long as it works on the SEO, like with SEO, it might not be even a thing. That's true.
Yeah, because I'd imagine with Google that would be a way to separate the two sites in terms of analytics. Having subdomains would be a clear indication for that.
I was actually looking it up on Google developers page, what they recommend, and they basically support both ways. Like either you use subdomains or you use different like directories for the different languages.
Right. Yeah.
So, because I wanted to know, okay, is that there's any advantage there, you know? Okay, guys. No more questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tim. That was really insightful. So is there any other topics anyone wanted to talk about before we call it a day? Or any other questions?
Can I just ask a quick question? If I seem to be experiencing a unique bug where my screen is refreshing as I'm coding, like within, I will make a change and within seconds, make another change and hit save, and my browser refreshes, therefore losing the code that I've changed. And I saw it a couple of weeks ago, and now, I mean, I'm losing code, and it's happening at least once an hour now.
Mm.
I've reported it to support, but I just wanted to know if anyone else was experiencing anything like that at all.
That happens to me all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Is
did
it
have
something?
a while ago.
And what time frame? Like, do we talk minutes or like 5 minutes?
Seconds.
Seconds, really.
I'll be
Yeah.
editing CSS, changing colors, just trying different fonts and sizes. So I change it, I refresh, I change it, I refresh, I change it, I refresh. So the page is not idling, it's not timing out, it's less than a minute. And then I go back and I make a change, and it can be something very simple. Sometimes it is lots and lots of code, right? And you hit save. But it just leads to a very frustrating experience.
Yeah, but
I haven't seen that.
When it happens, will it happen again within seconds? Like when you hit
Yes.
save. So you hit save, it refreshes, then you hit save again within seconds, and it refreshes again.
Oh, that's a good question. No, but possibly within the hour.
Yeah, because I think what's happening is you're getting logged out. Like the admin session, you're getting logged out in the background. So you can work away happily because the admin works like with not Ajax, but anyway. So you suddenly, like, you can do things, certain things will work, but when you save, it has to go to the database and actually return something. So if you're logged out at that point, it says, oh, okay, I've got to refresh the page. So I think that's what's happening, but why it happens, I don't know. Some sort of session timing out or logging out, but I have experience.
So I have hit save, made a change, and save, and it's happened, and that transaction is within a minute.
Mm.
Yeah.
What I'm not certain is if it's site specific or not. I know it's happened on multiple sites, but on other sites, I don't seem to have any problems. But am I making the same types of changes, not at the same time, you know?
Yeah, no, I think it is definitely site specific or something to do with the session that you're in at that time, because, yeah, I often work on multiple sites at the same time. And I know with the documentation site, like, I can spend hours on working on that and it never has happened, never. But other sites, it happens, yeah, often. So different sites are definitely different. But yeah, I don't know.
Does anybody know how long is timeout in general? Like, how long can a admin page stay open without saving or anything before it actually logs out? What's the timeout? It's an hour, or?
Well, I think that's the problem or the question, because on some sites it never does.
Documented somewhere?
No, not for the admin. I don't. But like I said, with some sites, it never log out. It just keeps refreshing itself. So, like, there's obviously some sort of token that tells the browser that you're still authenticated, and the refreshing of that token must be the issue, I'm guessing. Some sites it's not.
Thanks. Thanks. I do have another question. So we have a customer that is going on a United States national morning television program. And they're like custom book writers, right? And so they're expecting a good response. And I know we had sometime last year or in the past year, they introduced the new server options, you know, for that. Has anyone used that? Does anyone have any recommendations? I don't know if the traffic is going to increase. I know that this is a very small company and they have this is very rare. This is the first time they've been on television. It is a, very rare occurrence, and they can't pay a lot of money. So has anyone used the server? What's it called? The private server? The Enterprise, yeah.
Enterprise services.
Yeah, the dedicated.
Yeah, like a dedicated server. I haven't used it, but
Haven't used it either yet.
I know in the past, with requests like that, Treehouse have kind of temporarily bumped up a site's like resources. But I think now that they have that in place, the dedicated server, they're probably going to point you to that, I would say.
Yeah. We put in a support request just to say, hey, heads up, we don't even know when it's going to be aired. So we don't have that information yet, but will wait for their response. I just wanted to know if anyone had any experience.
Yeah.
What sort of traffic are you expecting?
I have no idea. They've got, traffic is pretty low right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've never had a customer like this, go on a national program. So
Are they doing any PR around it? Are they doing any other PR, I should say, around it?
no, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm sure they're going to blast it all over social media, but they aren't placing any print ads. They aren't doing any radio or television or anything like that.
Right. We run sites where we have up to 80,000 page views a month and no problems. Yeah.
Okay.
The most important things is to make sure the images are really safe down as much as you can. Yeah. Because that's where the traffic comes from. Purely hitting pages doesn't really matter too much. But I also did ask people the same thing. They couldn't really give us an indication of where we're at with this site. You know what I mean? On a monthly basis. Are we close? Are we not close?
Well, that's helpful. Thank you. I will take a look at their images because their homepage is pretty heavy. They have 3 automated PDF page turners. So those PDF documents
that can kill you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a video in the header.
Oh yeah. So I'll talk to them about maybe watching the traffic, and when the traffic increases, going to a slimmed down homepage potentially, or they will incur the charges.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Any other topics anyone wants to bring up?
I was going to mention because I saw Peter Schmidt on, but he's disappeared at the moment. But I was with John and Peter in Denmark last month, and we were talking about a get together somewhere in the world. I know that sort of pushing that, debating again. When are we going to do it? And where are we going to do it? So it'll be nice to do if we can make it happen. I mean, cheapers, we're all so far apart here.
Yeah, that would certainly be awesome. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Vegas. Somebody just mentioned Vegas, Jacob.
So far,
We did. We talked about the Vegas. Actually, that could work.
that's the best.
Happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Yeah.
But to be honest, the best track record so far for triple partner meetings is actually Denmark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm in for Denmark. I like all.
I love Danish. Ooh, I like the dessert.
There's a coffee shop. There's a coffee shop in Copenhagen. On the square, I tell you what, they make the best coffee I've ever had. It was absolutely amazing.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nothing beats a good coffee and a crispy Danish of some kind. Oh, yeah.
And there's good beer too. Don't forget the beer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I'm all in. We can start planning something like that. If you next year is probably should be time we would have to start kind of think about things now.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get John and Peter to stir it up, do some organizing.
Yeah, let's do that.
Nice.
They can, yeah, exactly. Get a block of rooms at a hotel somewhere, and there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a hotel, really, it's a Marriott, and at the top of it they got this absolutely stunning bar. Really, really, really nice. I tell you, that would be great. That would be a good place to meet. A very good place.
I have to sell some more sites for that. And I'm in. No, I'm in anyway. I really would like to.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Where are most of the Treeple folks located right now?
Australia.
That's
I was gonna say there's a lot in Australia, eh? Yeah.
and the US.
Yeah, the US too, yeah.
So Europe is in the middle.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go to Bavaria in the Bavarian mountains, right? Tim, let's go.
I thought we were going
I'm not
to
close to the Bavarian mountains. I'm like right in the middle, in the north more. So
Okay.
no mountains here. Sorry.
Well,
I thought we were all going to Tim's in-laws house.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Mauritius is the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, they would like really love that. But I can organize that. Accommodation would not be the problem. Maybe not at my in-laws, but I think it's more flying there would be a bit of a hassle. Not for the Australians though.
Yeah.
It's an 8-hour trip from Perth.
Okay. Right.
That's not too bad.
That's not bad.
Probably 21 hours for me.
Yeah, it really is a bit like, even for me, it's like proper at least 12 hours via Dubai.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think Europe would be a lot of fun, but I think that it would be great if some of the Treeple folks were able to join us, whichever way that's possible.
Yeah. I don't know where they are at the moment. I know Alex is in Florida.
Mhm.
I don't know where the
Last
rest.
I heard, there was a couple in Poland. There was one in Moldova. There was a couple in, what's the other one?
Yeah, Violet and Victoria in Bucharest.
Yeah.
Alexei's still in Ukraine. I'm not sure if they'll be able to get out actually, because they wouldn't be able to get back in.
Mm-hmm.
There's some, that it would be tricky for them actually.
Mm-hmm.
And Vlad.
Vlad is still in the is still in Ukraine.
As far as I know.
These are highly valuable people for us.
Yeah, but they're in the west. They're in the far west.
But I don't want them to get drafted.
No, that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Flying low. They're flying low, I think. No, but it's all good. The guys are all safe. Everything's running well. So we had 4 families, all Alex's friends. They've all come over. They're all living here and working in our area, and it's been really interesting getting to know them. And they're all friends actually with Vlad and the other guys, as they all know each other. So it's been interesting getting some inside stories and hearing some things that just based in Kharkiv and all the stuff.
I would love to connect.
They've all left their homes. They're all, and they've all left their homes, but the homes are all standing. They're all still there. They're all fine. They can't go back. They all can't go back. It's crazy.
I hope it's going to be better soon next year. Don't think anything changes this winter, but next year, I hope it's going to be a better year.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Have a good.
Shall we wrap it up?
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, thanks very much for the presentation.
No worries.
Next
Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Tim, for taking the.
Thanks, Gilles, for introducing.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Adam, you follow up on another Treehouse about our service issues.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Okay.
See you next
All
time.
right.
Guys,
Nice chatting with you all. Yeah.
All right.
Take care.
take care. Bye
Good
bye.
evening.
Guys, all the best.
Bye.